It's time to unveil the 2026 Rockfest lineup. Well, lineup predictions? Though the Rockfest lineup isn't typically announced until mid to late January, tickets are now on sale for this next iteration of the incredible annual Wisconsin Rock Music Festival, and our excitement led us to creating an in-depth analysis to figure out which bands are the most likely to perform in July 2026 when tens of thousands of fans descend upon the small village of Cadott. Let's start with a band that we think has a great chance to be announced as one of the headliners. Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst, Wes Borland and company check all the boxes. They're taking 2026 festival bookings, including Download Fest in the UK and Hellfest in France. They also just released a new song with plans on a full new album, and they're as popular as ever in these past couple years after young audiences discovered them, and the fans who grew up with Limp Bizkit no longer are pretending to dislike rap, rock, and nu metal. Even the tragic passing of their bass player Sam Rivers recently is not keeping Limp Bizkit off the road. Plus, Limp Bizkit hasn't played Rockfest since 2021, so they are due to return. We are putting Limp Bizkit as a 9 out of 10 likelihood to be among the bands announced for Rockfest 2026. Before our next prediction, let's cross off a few bands who will not be part of Rockfest 2026, and unfortunately, that list is topped by Falling in Reverse. Though their surge in popularity in recent years would have them as a perfect candidate to headline one night of Rockfest this year, frontman Ronnie Radke's comments during and after performing at Rockfest 2023 very likely eliminated that possibility. Also, you will not see System of a Down, AC/DC, My Chemical Romance, Foo Fighters, or any other band that is selling out football stadiums in 2026. Plus, do not get your hopes up for UK-based bands like Bring Me the Horizon or Sleep Token, unless those bands announce US tours that would take place around July 2026. We are going to put Bring Me the Horizon as the most likely among that group just mentioned, considering that they are headlining several rock festivals in spring/summer 2026, and they are in the US during May of 2026. But the only way we foresee Bring Me the Horizon being announced for Rockfest 2026 is if they announce a US tour date around that same time. Let's put the likelihood of Bring Me the Horizon at Rockfest 2026 as a 4 out of 10. Okay, next up. The stars seem aligned for a full slate of female-fronted bands taking over the main stage for one night of Rockfest 2026. The likelihood of the Pretty Reckless performing on the main stage is 9 out of 10, maybe even 10 out of 10, because Taylor Momsen's band will be on tour with AC/DC and happens to be performing in Madison on July 19th and has no shows scheduled during any of the 3 days prior, which just so happens to be the 3 days when Rockfest is taking place. Rockfest 2022 did feature a night of bands with female lead vocalists all performing back to back to back, which then in that year was the Pretty Reckless, Hailstorm, and Evanescence. This time around, while Hailstorm and Evanescence are both definite possibilities, let's go ahead and put both of them as a 5 out of 10 likelihood. What about instead having Linkin Park as one of Rockfest's headliners? Now with Emily Armstrong as co-lead vocalist alongside Mike Shinoda, Linkin Park will conclude their overseas From Zero tour at the end of June 2026, which leaves them a couple weeks to get back to the US and take some summer festival bookings in the States. We're going to put Linkin Park as a 6 out of 10 likelihood for being announced as a headliner for Rockfest 2026. This is what you want. Then, speaking of female-fronted bands that are ascending in the rock and metal scene, how about Courtney LaPlante and Spiritbox? They have been touring constantly to promote their new album, plus they are due to return to Rockfest after having last performed there in 2022, and they would make a perfect complement to any combination of Linkin Park, Evanescence, The Pretty Reckless, and Hailstorm. We are going to put the likelihood of Spiritbox at Rockfest as an 8 out of 10 for the 2026 lineup. We would also love to see Ginger return to Rockfest after playing there in 2023, and fingers crossed for Kitty and perhaps Flyleaf as well. Other headliner possibilities for Rockfest 2026 include Deftones. Their surge in popularity has had them touring basketball and hockey stadiums over the past year, and they don't seem likely to slow down as they promote their new album, including a festival show at Sick New World in Texas scheduled for October 2026. We are putting Deftones as a 6 out of 10 likelihood. Then there's the possibility of Korn, who will be touring overseas in May 2026, but is currently available for July. Like Deftones, Korn is also performing at Sick New World in 2026, with Jonathan Head, Monkey, and the rest of the crew set for the April 2026 date in Las Vegas. Korn has not played Rockfest since 2021, so 5 years later could be the perfect opportunity. We'll also put Korn as a 6 out of 10 possibility, just like Deftones. We are also adding a very strong likelihood, let's say 8 out of 10, maybe even 9 out of 10, for Mötley Crüe to headline the first night of Rockfest 2026. Why such a high number, and why specifically the first night? Well, Mötley Crüe just announced a US headlining tour for summer 2026, and one night before that tour kicks off just happens to be Thursday, July 16, aka night 1 of Rockfest. And considering there is no Wisconsin date on the Mötley Crüe tour schedule, it would make sense that Mötley Crüe is your Night 1 2026 Rockfest headliner. Other headliner possibilities in the range of a 4 out of 10 likelihood would include Tool and Godsmack, both of which are performing at Sonic Temple Festival in May of 2026 and could be available for Rockfest in July. While Godsmack has played Rockfest many times, most recently in 2023, Tool has never made an appearance there. Also, Iron Maiden is on tour extensively in 2026 and playing a couple festivals as well, so they could be an option too with a 4 out of 10 likelihood. Other legendary groups such as Guns N' Roses is booked for summer 2026 festivals, but they seem like a long shot 2 out of 10 possibility for Rockfest. Same with Slayer, which performs very rarely live but does have a show in October 2026 at Sick New World, Texas, and Slayer did take the Rockfest stage back in 2017. Let's set Slayer as a 3 out of 10 possibility. Papa Roach, Stained, and Breaking Benjamin all have at least one 2026 summer festival on their calendars currently, and they are all Rockfest veterans. So these are 3 very viable possibilities for being booked into the direct support slot going on stage right before the headliner on any night of Rockfest. We will set Breaking Benjamin, Stained, and Papa Roach all at a 5 out of 10 likelihood for that 8:30 p.m. direct support slot at Rockfest 2026. One band we're feeling quite confident about for being announced as part of Rockfest 2026 is Mudvayne. We're going to put Mudvayne as an 8 out of 10 likelihood because they just celebrated their 25th anniversary of their debut album LD50 and have been touring extensively. Plus, Mudvayne just released 2 new songs, which are the first new tracks from the band in 16 years, and they performed at Rockfest in 2022, so making their return 4 years later would make a lot of sense. Another band we're very confident about projecting for Rockfest 2026 is I Prevail. Now, with only one vocalist, I Prevail just put out a new album and will be on tour as direct support in 2026 with 3 Days Grace. And while 3 Days Grace was part of the 2025 Rockfest lineup and thus will not be a part of this in back-to-back years, their tour mates and I Prevail would be making their 3rd Rockfest appearance and their first since 2019. It's a natural fit for both the band and the festival, so we are putting I Prevail's likelihood to be part of Rockfest 2026 at a 9 out of 10. Some other bands with a good chance of being on the Rockfest lineup in 2026 include Lorna Shore, Beartooth, Motionless in White, Dayseeker, Wage War, Under Oath, Dance Gavin Dance, Whitechapel, Coal Chamber, Spineshake, Rise Against, Paleface Swiss, President, POD, and Bill Murray. In the cases of Wage War, Under Oath, POD, and Coal Chamber, all 4 of those bands are playing both Sick New World dates and will seemingly be active on the road in the summer of 2026. Wage War, Under Oath, POD, they have all performed at Rockfest at least once in the past, and so we'll put all 3 of those as a 7 out of 10 likelihood, while this would actually be the debut for Coal Chamber at Rockfest, so we'll put them at 5 out of 10. Lorna Shore and Whitechapel would likely be the heaviest bands at the festival if announced, but both are already announced for other 2026 festivals and would be making their Rockfest debuts. Hey, if heavy acts like Knocked Loose, Kubla Khan, Slaughter to Prevail can be part of the 2025 lineup, then let's collectively cross our fingers for Lorna Shore and Whitechapel in 2026. Also, we're going to put Dayseeker as a 7 out of 10 likelihood because they are heavily promoting the new album on the road and will be performing a headlining show in Green Bay a couple months prior to Rockfest. We also think there's a very strong chance of A Day to Remember being part of Rockfest 2026. They were part of Rockfest back in 2018, and while they just released a new album in 2025, they are preparing to release a big ol' album volume 2 in 2026, and they are taking other festival bookings. So we're going to put A Day to Remember at a 6 out of 10 possibility for Rockfest 2026. Lastly, but not least for sure, if Spineshank decides to tour in 2026 after a busy reunion year in 2025, they would be a home run to make their Rockfest debut. So, what do you think about these options? Which of these bands do you hope goes from being a prediction to reality when Rockfest announces their lineup? I hope you all enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed creating it.